tonight is my first book, and I thought I would pass it around because I'm not going to get a chance to talk about stress management tonight. The program tonight is to address doing research on a topic. I decided to go easy on myself and take a topic that I'm fairly familiar with, but I did look up some new statistics. I've provided you with some handouts that talk a little bit about the costs of stress. But before I get into that, I really do want to make this relevant to everybody. Has anybody here, just by show of hands, anybody here ever experienced any stress? For those of you in TV land, there were two people who could not raise their hand because they were too stressed out. Has anybody experienced any physical or emotional symptoms that were either created or made worse by stress? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit at the back end of the program about how you can identify that, what systems in your body might be impacted by stress. But to do the research, I went ahead, I used the most reliable source I could find. Not the Encyclopedia Britannica, because I can't find one of those, but I did go on the internet, and I found an article from Forbes magazine from January 26th of 2015 by a guy named Michael Blandon. He said that workplace stress in the United States is responsible for $190 billion annually in U.S. healthcare costs. Now that's a lot of money, but there are other statistics, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, but it also seems that if you don't just talk about healthcare, but you talk about the impact of stress on productivity, on absenteeism, on loss of focus, on lawsuits, then it's actually a $300 billion annual problem in the United States. I also found in this Forbes article a quote that I think was a little bit disturbing, but you also might be able to identify with this. Workplace stress contributes to at least 120,000 deaths each year. So this is pretty serious. That isn't just impacting the person, it's impacting the company, it's impacting the family and the friends of all of these people. The American Institute of Stress said the main causes of work stress are 46% is due to workload, 28% is due to people issues, maybe conflicts, 20%, which is, I think, maybe low, but it's juggling work and personal life, family life, and 6% has been related to job security, or maybe it's job insecurity. There's an organization in the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, called NIOSH. The initials stand for National Institute of Organizational Safety and Health. And they come out every few years with some statistics. They say, as they were looking around, 40% of workers say that their jobs are either very or extremely stressful. 25% view their jobs as their number one stressor in their lives. And 3/4 of the employees, is anybody here still working? Okay. 3/4 of the employees believe that workers have more on-the-job stress now than they did a generation ago. Why is that? Because technology has us plugged in 24/7, I think. The change of information and technology has really increased the levels of stress for all of us. In yet another study, Attitudes in the American Workplace, number 7, this is the 7th time this has been done, their inventory said that 80% of workers feel stress on the job. These are some interesting statistics that I hope you don't find in your workplace, but 14% of the respondents had felt like striking a coworker in the past year, but they said they didn't. 25% have felt like screaming or shouting because of stress on the job. And 9% are aware of violence in the workplace that has been due to stress. In another study called the Integra Survey, 62% routinely find that by the end of the day they have work-related neck pain. I don't know if that's every day or sometime during the course of a year. 12% have called in sick due to stress. That can cost. And then I used another highly reliable source. This is Ned Smith from the Business News Daily. He's a senior writer, and this came from March 28, 2012. He said that stress has become the health epidemic of the 21st century, and it was labeled that by the World Health Organization, which estimates the cost of American stress to be that $300 billion a year. He also goes on to say, due in part to the prevalence of stress in today's workplace, behavioral disability costs have increased more than 300% in the past decade and account for 30% of all the disability claims. Another statistic that he quotes, that I have in the handouts, it's a little bit higher. He says that the causative factor of illness underlying 70% of all visits to doctors can be related to stress. Let's take a look at how it impacts you. The last page of the handout, I have a list of physical and emotional symptoms that might either be created or made worse as a response to stress. And this is for you to take with you. If you'd like to use this checklist, what you do is you go down in the column called Past, you think back as far back as you can recall to any of these symptoms that you may have experienced, and you put a 1 or a 2 if you had it and it was minor. And you would put a 4 or a 5 if it was very severe or even incapacitating. In the column called Now, you might just look over the last, say, 2 to 4 months. These symptoms are loosely grouped together because each one of us holds on to stress in our own unique way. Each one of us habitually holds stress in one system or another. If you want to see the cost of stress, you may find that you hold stress in your muscle system. And the ones at the top are related to muscle contraction problems, like headaches or back pain or neck pain, bruxism, tight jaw, things like that. Then there's the cardiovascular problems, like high blood pressure, Raynaud's, digestive disorders, immune system disorders. And near the bottom of the chart, you're going to see some of the psychological, the emotional symptoms that can either be made worse or created by stress. Things like panic and anxiety, which came first, the chicken or the egg? If you're under a lot of stress, you have anxiety. If you're under a lot of anxiety, you have stress. I don't know. Things like depression, forgetfulness, quality of life, clumsiness. My challenge to you in bringing this to your attention is if you find that you have marked things off on this list, or you have family members or friends who can score pretty high on this list, that you may be a really good candidate for taking care of yourself in a different way. The wellness approach would be, of course, to get exercise on a regular basis, to eat sensibly, eat better perhaps, maybe avoid some of the caffeine that Starbucks wants us to drink. And then even more importantly, which may be difficult, is to make time to do stress management. I know Kurt's written a book on meditation. He's an expert on that. You can consult with him. But there are a lot of ways for us to take care of ourselves, and I encourage you to practice these on a regular basis. Thank you very much for your time.